Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here to show the January 2019 card kit from My Favorite Things. Now, they do, yes, obviously they have a card kit. It's not a subscription. They do an announcement of the release and the showcase of it. This one just really caught my eye. I thought it was really, really different. So I always, yes, I get all the notices and, just like everybody else, nothing special here, but this one just really caught my eye. So let's dig in and I will show you what came in this kit. Now, the wonderful thing about these kits is the pieces that you're seeing will be available in the next release. So the stamps, the dies, and so forth. So you get your inspirational sheet, like I showed there, with the listing of the contents. Now, the other thing that I absolutely love about these kits is the cardstock. The amount of cardstock that you get is great. So, I mean, right here, you're getting close to 10 sheets of cardstock, which to me, I think is, or just over actually, which I think is wonderful. I do like and enjoy their cardstock. One of the other items that comes in the kit it's called the replenishments, and this is the Heart Trio. I have to admit, this is the first time that I'm actually using one of these replenishments from My Favorite Things, I believe. I don't recall ever using them before. Oh, I have them. But they do make shaker cards easy. Yeah. You have the stamp set, and I really clued into the stamp set. I know it doesn't look like you can do much with that, but there is a lot. You get the trio heart die. You get the double, the love die, which I think is great, the different ways. And the letters are separate, so you can make them different. Now, of course, I did get some other things. So I did get the single heart as well as the free gift at 60. So let's get started. So I just grabbed into my scrap pile. Again, I always keep this pile next to me. Once it starts building up, I go through it because I do throw all my scraps in there. I pulled out some colors here and I'm just stamping away. So I have a color for each of the stamps because there's 6 different hearts. I'm using my Versamark ink and I'm just stamping that onto each of these colors. I don't know if I'm going to use all the colors, because again, that's kind of an even number. You know how I am with my even numbers. So I'm not quite sure. I pulled out my Brutus Monroe fairy dust. Where I was going is I wanted to make them look like the candied hearts, if that makes sense. Figuring, okay, when you use the watermark ink, it makes the cardstock darker. We should be able to see this. And for the most part, yes, you can, as long as it's on an angle. So, know if you're looking at these head on, you do have to turn it to see it. But I did like the effect that I was getting with this. It gave just a little bit of sparkle, and you can see the difference in the colors. I'm going to use that individual die that I had received to cut these out. These would be very easy to fussy cut as well. I'm going to pull in a piece of the gray cardstock, and I'm using my More Essential Sentiment stamp set by My Favorite Things. I collect those too. I just like to make sure they're quick, easy sentiments, just to apply to your cards, and they're great statements, and you get a lot. I'm going to use my Fine Detail White from Simon Says, and I'm going to heat set that. And you know what? I have learned I work better with these banner dies. These are the Simon Says stamp banner dies. It's the only way I can get it straight. So I think you're going to see those more and more now. So I have my card base here, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work directly onto my card panel, because I wasn't quite sure if I was going to raise up the panel or if I was going to put that directly down onto the card base. But I am using my Distress ink blender brush. I really like these. These are what I use for my oxides. And just wanted to put a little tiny cloud in the background, just to give it some interest back there so that it wasn't just a plain white background. Could you have done that? Absolutely. You could have just had a plain white background. Again, sometimes I do it too. I am guilty. We overthink. We say, okay, well, I've got to do this layer. I've got to do this layer. I've got to do this layer. You don't have to. So I'm going to use my foam squares to prop these up. I do want them raised off of the panel. And I'm just going to place them. So you can see I've got that one that's kind of hanging out there. I'm going to trim down my sentiment so that I can put it right into the area that I kind of sort of left open there. And I'm going to glue that straight down. The liquid adhesive that I'm using is my art glitter glue. And I'm just going to set that right in place. So you can see, you know, you can see the writing on the little tiny hearts. But you do have to turn it. But I really did like the way that looked. So I'm going to use my glue to set down my panel, hopefully straight. And I did use my wonky stitch rectangle die to cut my panel. Of course, wonky die came back. It's still my favorite. I'm going to use my iridescent sequins, and I'm going to use my wax pencil to put them onto my card. I am a very big fan of the iridescent sequins. They're kind of a staple. They must be near me. I don't even put them away. They just constantly sit next to me. They are the ones that I do go for, mainly because I do use a lot, so maybe that's why. I don't know. So for the next card that I did here, I pulled out my worn lipstick, and I also am using Festive Berries. Now I probably should have gone with candied apple just to make it a little bit darker, or maybe even aged mahogany. I think aged mahogany would have been beautiful. Because what I'm going for is just a gradient. I want to go from, of course, dark to light. And I like the Festive Berries, but I just didn't think it was as dark as what I wanted it. But that's okay. We keep going. We don't stop. And honestly, didn't think about it until after the card was done. So, it's not like I was sitting there looking at this. So, I mean, you do see the gradient. I'm okay with that line there. I didn't want it specifically blended as well. I am going to spritz this with my Distress bottle, just to get some splashes going on there. And I'm going to lift those up with my towel. I'm going to place the horizontal love across that, and eventually I'm going to die cut that. I am now using my Hickory Smoke, and I want to create a background. Now this card's going to be like a 6x6 type card base. Just so that, well, no, not a 6x6. It's a 5.5 by 5.5. Just because of what I was looking to do there. Okay, now if you look in the upper right hand corner, that's another way to place the love on the negative space. Oh, look at that. Put the O up in the, put that little dot up in the corner there. That's kind of look cool. Oh, okay. And enough of that. So I used my largest heart die. These are, I bought these when I first started paper crafting. They're by Sizzix, the hearts. Cut the largest one out of black and white polka dot. And I'm using my 2-inch double-sided film tape. This tape is very strong. And the reason why I'm using that is because I used cardstock to make this gray panel. And there was a lot of water. So there's a lot of warping that's going to happen there, especially when you do your ink smushing. So just to make sure that it lays flat, I do use my double-sided film tape. It is very strong. It is unforgiving. And what I mean by that is once it's down, you cannot lift it back up. So just keep that in mind. So, of course, I pulled off the release paper before placing my heart and knowing where I wanted to place it, which is what I always do. Now I'm going to set it down. Got to go with it at this point, and that's okay. And now I'm just playing with my letters. So just looking at the positioning of those, I definitely wanted them to go along the heart. And you can see with the cards that I made, you're going to be seeing a lot of heart videos, by the way. Just saying. It's Valentine's Day. These are just different. For some reason, when I see Valentine's, it's happy. It's it's festive. But I do always seem to put, I don't know if you want to call it a grunge feel, or a vintage grungy feel. I don't know if that exists, the vintage grungy feel. It's edgy. When it comes to my Valentine's cards, they are very, very edgy sometimes. So you're going to be seeing that a lot. Although there is one that's very light and happy. So you should be seeing that one soon. Once my letters finally got placed, I made sure that there was double-sided foam squares at the bottom, and then I glued the top to the heart. I then pulled out my Martha Stewart heart hand punch. I love this. I love that hand punch. There's a lot of her hand punches that I have that are just great. So I have lots of hearts here. And you can see I use the panel when I cut out the letters. So I've got a variation going on through some of them, which is definitely something that I wanted to incorporate. So I put a lot of glue dots along this heart and going off of the heart onto the card. And now I'm just placing these hearts, making sure that the darker ones are down at the bottom. And then you can see I have those that are fading to the white up into the top, which I thought was a little bit different. Kind of cool there. I'm seeing there's some lighter ones, and I just wanted to make sure that those were put in place as well. I'm then coming in with my glossy accents, and I'm covering, or I'm coating each of the hearts with that. Just to give it a little bit of shine. Again, nothing too fancy, nothing too, again, it's got this edge to it, if that makes sense. Wait till you see the Simon Says kit. Lots of edge. Edge. It's fun. Okay. Anyway, so didn't realize I had you sit through all of the coloring of the hearts, or the covering of the hearts. Okay. So that is our second card. So very plain. Nothing, you know, not a lot. I created a background, I cut out a heart, and I used the letters. And that is something else that I really saw with this kit. Beautiful cards, as always, but not so time-consuming. I make them time-consuming with all the things that I want to add. So I wanted to play with one of these replenishments, the shaker windows. So I cut out my 3 hearts on an angle on my card base. These are really easy. Yeah. I mean, this is right up there with that one card that I showed with the tool. These things are easy. Wow. Awesome. It's amazing. So after you do your cut, you take your glue, you put it around the openings, and then you set your plastic, your replenishment in. Now just remember, you want to do the opposite. Instead of keeping it flat to push it down, once you put your acetate on, you want to flip to the good side, because remember, these stick out of your card. You're not raising your card, if that makes sense. So once they're in place, I just pulled a piece of pattern paper from my stash. And I'm kind of looking, I know I want one of those. You could use either die. I just want black letters. So I cut those out, and I have those set aside. Now the hearts that cut out, I'm going to save those because I can put them in another project. I pulled out some of my Nouveau confetti. These are the hexagons from Nouveau. And I just used, I have their spoon so that I can pull them out, because yeah, when I go to pour them, they just go all over the place. It's kind of awesome. Lots of cleanup. Always lots of cleanup. And again, what's great here with these, you just got to remember that it's lifted up off your table. So don't lean on the edge of it. or anything else like that, it's a lot easier to put the panels because, again, you don't have that double-sided foam tape to try to line up with the card base and all of that. You're lining up paper to paper, which is awesome. So those are the shakers that I have set up. And now I'm going to use the middle heart as my O and use the other 3 letters to spell out love. So very simple. And I thought it's got a good bit of impact. I think it's really, really cute. Now I'm thinking here because in my mind, it's missing something. And of course I'm doing this off screen. Was it missing something? No. Did I have to do that? No. I used my hickory smoke and my finger dauber just to go around the edge of this panel to pull in some gray. Why, I don't know. It's just saying. Excuse me. But you don't have to do that. But if you did, you could use another color. It's okay. For some reason, I really was looking. And also, when it comes to Valentine's, I see pink, red, well, really like a maroon, not like a true red, black and gray, and maybe a pool color. I don't know why. It's just the things that I say. So I'm going to take this panel and I'm going to adhere it to my standard A2 size card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it is a top folding card. So these were very quick, very simple. Tried to keep them simple for you. Specifically, because again, we don't have to make everything very difficult, but I do hope you're inspired to dig into your stash of what you have and create something that is similar. If anybody has any questions, leave those down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All the products that I used will also be listed below in case you want to just click on that link to see what they are if you are interested in them. I hope everyone's having a great day, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe and tune in for my next video. Here are a few other videos I thought you might like using products from my favorite things. Take care, everyone, and always remember, be creative.